Yes, welcome back, Looney listeners. This is Into the Night, a Moon Knight podcast. This is episode 80, and you are listening to the voices of the High Priest of Khonshu for the first time in 2019. It's great to be back. I am one of your hosts, High Priest of Khonshu, Ray, and with me, of course, is the other High Priest, Connor Shu. Connor, how are you?
Hello, I am doing well and very glad to be back in the hot seat. We had a bit of a late week last week just because of work pushing me under the deep waves, but I am back, ready than ever for a pretty big episode this week, kicking it off big for 2019.
Yeah, I mean, geez, Connor, Khonshu has been working you to the bone there with work. Hopefully things have been easing up lately, have they?
Oh...
No?
No.
Oh,
but I'm finding the time. It's
yeah,
what we do.
Are you still finding time to read some of the good stuff? Some of the comics?
It's been a couple of good cracking weeks for comics as well, if anyone's been diving in at home. So, yeah, no.
Yeah, right. And before that, I mean, I guess welcome all the loony listeners
Hello,
out
everyone.
there listening to us. It has been a while, as Connor mentioned. Yeah, we did take a slightly longer break due to work and scheduling as well. But I wanted to ask anyway. It may seem like a forever, now. But how was your New Year's, Connor Shu?
Yeah, I was pretty strong. Christmas, the big one, we had all the family up. Then they all kind of departed just before New Year's.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of spent that one lousing about, so I wasn't partying hard like you probably were.
No, hardly. No, but I don't know. Were there like massive New Year's celebrations like in and around your town, or
I think Toowoomba has a fairly decent one, but we got Brisbane like 2 hours away. That's where the big fireworks go off for Queensland at least, but I wasn't cool enough to head up there, so I'm sorry I can't report back, everyone. What about yourself down in Sydney?
Yeah, it was pretty good. We Christmas was great. We kind of combined the families together, had them all over at our place. All had a little play with little Finn, and then New Year's Eve. Yeah, we made our way to North Sydney over the bridge. One of our friends has a place really right on the water over there, so we had a great view from the other side of the bridge, the massive Sydney fireworks. So we saw it was just as spectacular. It was great. It was good. Nothing too crazy. The only crazy thing was because we public transported it was actually getting back home. That was a bit of an adventure. We had Eve's parents with us, and we ended up having to walk, to a distant station to try and catch a train because it was a bit of a debacle. I got home late, had Finn in the carrier, so he was dead weight. He was passed out. He slept, but we were trekking and walking the streets up until about 4 o'clock in the morning. So it was it was good. It was good. It's Finn's first Christmas in years, so I'm not sure how much he'll remember. Probably none, but we've got photos and videos, and we had a blast. So that was fun. That was really good. Did you get any? I mean, the season. It is the season's for giving. I'm sure you gave a lot, and gave a lot to your family and friends. Did you receive anything Moon Knighty or comic related?
I got some good comic related stuff. Plenty of nice bips and bods, some nice hardcovers as well. A few books to get me back into actually reading books without pictures, but. No Moon Knight, I'm afraid.
Oh, okay.
He's a bit gone at the moment.
Yeah, he's a bit.
I
think we're in a bit of a dry patch with Moon Knight. we're as all loonies are patiently kind of just waiting for some sort of news on Moon Knight and what's happening. Look, we got the Epic Collection which came out, Final Rest.
Yeah, just in between episodes. I think that's very nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe the last episode that we had, we were talking about it as a stocking filler.
A big one.
A big one, yeah. I certainly I went out and purchased one as soon as I could. So I've got one there, which complements, I think it finishes off the whole Moench run for Volume 1, which incidentally is one of the things we'll be discussing tonight, Khonshu. Getting way ahead of ourselves. forgot to introduce to the loonies, Khonshu. So maybe you'd like to let our fair loonies know what we have on the table for tonight.
Oh, yeah, like I said, a nice big one. We're actually doing combining last week's supposed to be episode with this week's. And we're cracking into a spotlight on Randall SPECTOR, returning back to a villain spotlight. We haven't done that in quite some time. And then after that, we continue our classic run by looking into issue 2 of Moon Knight Volume 1, the slasher who does something at night, or whatever it's called.
Yeah, another Moench classic. I mean,
Yeah,
we'll get
just
into
the slasher.
The slasher, yeah. We'll definitely get into it into our discussion. But both meaty topics to talk about. I guess before we get into any bits of news of Moon Knight in the media, look, let's we can do that. We can kind of combine it in there. It's only because I'm thinking, Khonshu, there was a little bit of a Moon Knight. I haven't read it yet, but this week's comics, or last week's, last week's comics, I believe, or was it this week's? There was a bit of Moon Knight mentioned in the Avengers. Did you see that?
Oh, I did not. I just picked up all the back issues of Aaron's Avengers run. I've only read the big 700 issue, but now people are saying it's finally gotten good. So I picked up all the back issues. So I'll be getting there eventually. But yeah, another drop. What happened this time?
It was literally. I mean, this is courtesy. I think one of the loonies did. Oh no, actually, I'll shout out to Brian, Mr. Satan, Biggie, from one of the co-hosts from Inner Demons, a Ghost Rider podcast. Ooh. He
Love
actually, they're great. They're awesome dudes. He let it be known to me, but also a friend on Twitter, Just Zilla, sent over a panel. It's only literally one panel of, I can't even remember who's talking. I think one of the Dora Milaje, or could be Shuri, talking to one of the Avengers, and talking about membership into the Avengers. And one of the characters mentions that they put a call out to like Shang-Chi, to I can't remember the other characters, but they mentioned that they put a call out to Moon Knight, and he politely declined to join the Avengers, which is pretty cool. I don't know how that factors in with Aaron's overall maybe plans for Moon Knight, because we do know, well, Moon Knight has been seen. Well, no spoilers, Connor, for all the back issues. Have you read 700?
Yeah, I did read 700.
Okay. Well, then you've seen it there as well. There's that beautiful splash page where they're talking. And you see
hinting
Moon Knight.
What's to come.
And hopefully, fingers crossed. Please, that means something is in the pipelines. But yeah, I don't know how this factors into potential plans by Aaron. If Moon Knight doesn't want to join the Avengers, I kind of liked him in the Secret Avengers, the kind of like the X-Force of Avengers, being a bit of a secret Black Ops unit. I reckon he'd do well there, but he's very much still a lone wolf, isn't he? I mean, he doesn't want to join the Avengers at all, it seems.
Definitely, and I find that interesting, just like... Well, I find it interesting they're still Avengers are still looking into Moon Knight. I thought after all these years they might finally just give up on him, but I guess he's too good to miss. But we know some bloody big things are coming that are just, I guess, go a larger scale than I think anything we've seen Moon Knight do before. So he doesn't join the Avengers, but I think he'll be playing a very important role to come. Yeah,
I mean, let's take a while to to paraphrase one of our good loonies, Squeaky, let's speculate about this a bit. So you reckon Aaron has dropped it a couple of times. He dropped it in the Legacy, that one-shot Legacy issue, all the way, it was almost a year ago when that dropped, which spoke of worshippers of Khonshu felt some sort of disturbance, in the Force kind of thing. And then we get it again in 700, with him showing Moon Knight seemingly leading a pack of like mummies or something. What do you think is happening in that mind of Jason Aaron's Khonshu? Do you think we'll get something? Do you think he'll helm something?
Yeah, well, I think he's from what I understand, he's definitely building to something big. So we already have the latest arc upcoming after this latest issue 12 is a big vampire arc with Blade fighting against, I think it's like Dracula and all these great classic Marvel like undead baddies. So
it's going to be so cool.
Oh yeah, so I'm definitely picking it back up for that. And then I think what's happening later is that obviously that I think Aaron has big plans for making Moon Knight a more supernatural entity and making Khonshu more realized, especially since he's done the Marvel Legacy that has like old Odin and the Phoenix Force and the first Iron Fist. I think he's going to tie into that. Obviously, I think he's going to try and make Khonshu a real god like he has been before and make Moon Knight a proper spiritual entity, which I think Aaron's run on Avengers is going to be big, so I think this is going to be like an event within the Avengers that is going to see Moon Knight leading this army in some massive world-ending event that we'll see happening. So I think give it time, but I think Aaron will deliver. I've never known Aaron to not give us what he promises, even if it's like his Thor run and he teases out. And it's not till 3 years later we see it, but I think this will be big. It'll be true, and it'll happen. Just gotta wait it out.
I really hope so. The only concern I have is that, especially in that issue 700, he paints a huge canvas. Like, it's not only just Moon Knight. You see all these other characters. You see almost it seems like a cosmic Daredevil. I think that's the right picture I'm thinking of. You see Punisher in a weird garb as well. Like I said, there's a lot happening. What I'm concerned about, and I'm hoping it's not, is that it's just a broad brushstroke, and he's just going to encapsulate this, and it's going to kind of come in a wave. It's going to be part of a huge event, like as you say, but we might not get into the details of each and every facet of it. You know, we won't get into a Moon Knight thing. Look, if anything, there might be a limited series of it, similar to what they did with Infinity Wars, where you have like the Arachnite, and you have Sleepwalker, which was a four-parter, something like that. You have Arachnite, which is a two-parter. We might get mini series. I'm hoping there's a lot more to it as well. What I also thought as well, Connor, was that I saw some covers to the later Avengers issues coming up, and there seemed, and speaking to Brian again, Brian Brimstone Biggie, and I saw one of Robbie Reyes, Ghost Rider, and there seeming to be an arc of Robbie Reyes going towards the dark side, so to speak, and being evil. I would love to see, because they are quite comparable, Ghost Rider and Moon Knight. Brian and I were having a chat just today about why aren't there more Moon Knight Ghost Rider team-ups, because they're both about vengeance, as Avatar of Vengeance and Spirits of Vengeance. Robbie Reyes, he does have this almost Khonshu voice in his head, which is his uncle Eli, which is that kind of evil spirit.
Right.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe there's scope there. If there's a heavy arc on Ghost Rider, maybe, hopefully, Aaron can shoehorn Moon Knight in there somewhere. I don't know. But there's a lot of potential there, and I guess we as loonies are just excited that we see Moon Knight pop up once his series is ended in the Avengers, and still mentioned. So he's on the radar. So yeah, we can only just wait and see, I guess.
Yeah. So I think it just comes down to the fact that we've currently got this Blade thing coming. I think it'll work its way through that. Like, yeah, maybe right, the Ghost Rider one will be next. Maybe Moon Knight tie into that, or even I don't know, maybe even be its own thing later on.
I can't wait for this Blade thing, Connor. That is really cool. I mean, and they've kind of set that up, haven't they? There's been Blade. Blade has been appearing everywhere, like sporadically, hasn't he? And it all kind of culminated at the end of 700, which was I remember that put a smile on my face. Where was it the Wasp that went to get him?
Yeah, he was he chained
so
up?
Cool.
I think. Or?
Yeah, he was chained up. So he was kind of rescued by the Wasp and brought over, and I guess kicking off, being made an Avenger, and that will kick off this whole vampire arc, which would be pretty cool. But anyway, we will have to wait and see. Righto, well, there's only there's only a few other bits of news. I was really scraping the bottom of the barrel here, Khonshu, when it came to Moon Knight.
We're back at it again.
I know, and we did say we're going to cull all this crap and just, really stick to decent news. But the fact is, it is a bit of a lean season for us at the moment. So, apart from those appearances in the Avengers, one of the bigger things was there was a bit of a conversation happening over at Twitter. Khonshu, I'm not sure if you managed to catch that or were privy to that discussion by one Donny Cates.
Yeah, we had what for Miss Sparky Malarkey dropping it in our loony bin chat. Yeah,
yes, yeah, she weighed in as well. She was getting into it. It was pretty cool. Basically, loonies. What had happened was someone had posited a question to Donny on Twitter saying that, would he be amenable to write Moon Knight? And that's caused he actually opened the floodgates. He said, look, I'd have to know the character first. I know nothing about him. And then he said stuff like, what can you tell me about him, or what are the good runs and stuff like that. And everyone kind of weighed in there. I think all the loonies got quite excited. And rightly so as well. He's been a boon for Marvel, hasn't he?
Oh yeah, I think everyone loves almost just about everything he's done. Venom, Thanos, Doctor Strange, Cosmic Ghost Rider. It's just been knockout after knockout.
And he's won a few awards. Was it? I can't remember which awards they were, but he won it for Venom. I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah, I think he also won something for God Country. His his first Image series.
He's such a talented writer. He can write for the big companies, but he also has that creative flair to really do well with his independent stuff. So, have you read God's Country?
No, I don't. I've had it sitting there for like 2 years.
You've got it. No.
Well, you'll probably be bloody good.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll probably be very used to his style now. Like, you've probably read a lot of his stuff now, and then probably when you pick up, it's going to be like really a real fun, real easy read, I'd imagine.
Yeah, and it was his first and knocked it out of the park, so...
Yeah, well, he's definitely talented as well. I think also I'd like to do another little shout out. One of our collective as well. They're called the Fantasy Comic League, FCL. They had their own Stan Lee Awards, inaugural. They changed the name of it to Stan Lee in honour to the passing of the great man last year. And Donny cleaned up there as well amongst the community. So very much, it's without saying now, is it? I mean, most comic book readers know the impact that Donny Cates has had. So what do you think of him actually, if he does take on the reins of Moon Knight? Would you like to see that? It's probably an obvious question, Connor. But
100%.
Yeah.
Actually, I was just thinking before, maybe we have to wait till Aaron's thing is over before we can get Moon Knight, because it looks like that's going to be a fairly drastic change for Moon Knight. But I think Cates can just do anything with any character. Like, it's not unusual for, a writer to be given, because Marvel and DC have, like, every issue they've ever published in these big, easy to get to warehouses for all new writers. So sometimes they'll just go, can you write this character? They'll give them the back issues, and they can just take it away from there. So it wouldn't surprise me, just in this limitless knowledge, and Cates is always looking to do something new. I could always imagine him taking up Moon Knight. So yeah,
it'll be good. There's only a little bit of me thinking, still smarting from our little Damnation adventure, though. I mean, albeit I know he wrote it with Nick Spencer, but look, in all honesty, I wasn't the biggest fan of how Moon Knight was portrayed in there. I know some people loved it as well, which is fine. I mean, like they did appreciate the lightheartedness his role did play in that whole adventure, albeit he was kind of, almost lost amongst the sea of characters within there. And again, the likes of Ghost Rider and Doctor Strange were the more important characters in that big event. But I don't know, kind of, if you compare that, like Moon Knight in Damnation Mr. Knight with Mr. Knight in the Ellis run, it's just chalk and cheese, isn't it? And I'd much prefer the Mr. Knight in the Ellis run.
Oh yeah, and I think that's kind of it's kind of funny now that Cates admits that he didn't know anything about Moon Knight. So I wonder if he just wrote Moon Knight with no knowledge, or Spencer wrote it after that. So yeah, I think the Damnation run is quite a damning, if you will, representation of Moon Knight. It's just not great, but I think if given the reins, he'd be given the right material to read to really understand the character properly.
Yeah, I guess you'd have to give him the benefit of the doubt. He has done really good work with Venom. I mean, he's really gotten into the character there, hasn't he? He kind of understands. He understands Eddie Brock, and he's taken it even further as well. So you can't, and same with Thanos as well. It just added so much to the character. So I guess if he does handle a solo character as opposed to, and does it by himself, he's not part of a team like he was with Nick Spencer, maybe we'll get more of an accurate representation of Mr. Knight at least. So, look, well, moving along with our news, look, Connor, there's only 3 other smaller things here. Look, the first one was, yes, another one of those sorts of articles. It was titled, "Every Marvel Hero Rumoured to Appear in the MCU After Avengers Endgame." And yes, of course, you guessed it, Moon Knight was in the mix there. Nothing special there. Khonshu, this is harking back to our episodes 1 and 2, isn't it? When we were finding articles like this, and we were quite excited, but 80 episodes in, the sheen is worn off for these sorts of articles for me. How about you?
Oh yeah, God, and I think at this point, the amount of times the Russo brothers and stuff has said, they're not ready for Moon Knight yet, and they're trying to work on scripts, but they're finding it tough and whatever. I just don't think there's any validity to these anyway. They're just trying to get some good clicks. So
yeah, exactly. It is. It's just clickbait. So basically, this wanted you to click onto it and again just dream about what could be after. The only thing, we'll just have to wait after Endgame, won't we? And then just wait for the announcement.
Hope for the best.
Exactly. Not until Feige actually announces something, that's the time to get excited. All this is just, speculation. It's all the same. Anyway, also there's another article as well. This is from Geeks Worldwide.
This was pretty cool.
This was good. It didn't make the top 10. So they had the top 10 comic book covers of 2018. And there have been beautiful covers in Moon Knight, especially from Jason Burrows in the Bemis run. So it didn't make the top 10. The likes of beautiful covers in X-Men Red. I'm not sure if you're familiar, Khonshu, with all those.
Love X-Men Red.
Yeah, those covers are brilliant. And anyway, number 1, Nightcrawler comes in at number 1 there. Really rightly so. But Moon Knight's, I'm just scrolling down. The other likes of Thor, Wonder Woman, Darth Vader, they all get a mention in there. Moon Knight gets an honourable mention, and that is for his
191.
191.
Which is the cool Marlene and Mark in front of the burning house, which is the thing or whatever that famous picture is.
Oh, the American Gothic.
That's the one.
Right, 191. Okay, wow. I mean, that is a gorgeous cover. I mean, there were so many good covers in Moon Knight. It actually surprised me, but that was the one that was chosen. Do you have a favorite cover from Moon Knight? Bemis's run, just the
Bemis's run. I think 200 might top it for me. The Becky Cloonan Cloonan cover. I don't think much tops that for me. I think they were all great, honestly. If there's one thing Bemis's run excelled at, it was bloody covers. But I think it might be that 200. Becky Cloonan, once she took over, just didn't stop knocking it out of the park. Yeah, that was a pretty good one. There was that. I like that Labyrinth one as well. It was just stark black and white with Moon Knight in the foreground. I thought that was good. But actually, that American Gothic one was quite good. I was just thinking all the others were good as well. Like Moon Knight, he was surrounded by sharks. I mean, there are things that
that make it good because it's unexpected, and last thing you'd expect would be Moon Knight underwater, chained, with sharks, swimming around him. I thought that was pretty memorable. And of course, I think the 188. I think Moon Knight hanging off the rooftop.
Yeah,
one of the water coolers. Yeah, with the eye of Horus, is it? Just looking at him, I thought that was great. So anyway, yep, gets a mention. And finally, this is really small. I think it was closing a rumor, although it's actually worded really weirdly. At a comic book convention, it was Marquand. I've forgotten his first name. Is it Ross? Ross Marquand, from The Walking Dead. Someone asked him on the panel, if he would be playing Moon Knight.
Right.
Is he going to be playing Moon Knight? And he just said no. He said, yeah, there are no rumors. He'd love to play a Marvel character. He, for those who don't know, he plays Red Skull in Infinity War. You wouldn't recognize him.
Oh, right.
Yeah, but he says, but if he could play a character, he'd play Moon Knight. So, nothing concrete. It's just a bit of fun. He's obviously a fan, and and there you have it. So, scrappy bits of news there, Khonshu, but that's all we've got so far. The most exciting bits being, I think, the Avengers appearance and mentions by Moon Knight.
Oh, definitely.
Of Moon Knight, sorry. So with that, Khonshu, I think, why don't we take a short break? We'll hear from one of our collective members, and we'll be right back for our spotlight on Randall SPECTOR.
Hey there everyone, I'd like to tell you about the YouTube channel I Am Your Target Demographic. If you're a fan of comics, we have plenty that you'll enjoy over there, including a series called Heroes Like Us that explores comic characters of all sorts of different identities. And we even have a series that defines words that are used in nerd culture that you may not know what they mean. So you can check us out by heading to YouTube and searching I Am Your Target Demographic, or look up IAYTD on any social media outlet.
Yes, welcome back, loony listeners. You are listening to Into the Night, the first episode of 2019. You are with High Priest of Khonshu, Connor and Ray, and we're here to give you a double dose of reviewing. The first one being a character spotlight, and the second one will finish the show off with a classic run review, which is Doug Moench's Moon Knight number 2, The Slasher. But first, Khonshu. Okay. We haven't done this in a while. We're doing a spotlight. So we're doing the spotlight because last week, when we couldn't do the episode, was a new moon. So that Khonshu decreed was a spotlight. And so we chose to talk about Randall SPECTOR, the darker brother of the of Eli SPECTOR. And the more psychotic of Khonshu. I guess first overall thoughts on Randall. Oh, maybe should we describe him?
Let's go into let's kind of run through who he is.
Yeah, exactly. Let's do that first. All right. So where shall we start, Connor?
So I guess Randall first appeared in. We covered this one too. Hulk magazine, was it 17?
17 or 18? Yeah, one of those.
He was known then as the Hatchet Man, and basically they tried to add something new to the Moon Knight mythos while he was still very much in his infancy. That Randall SPECTOR was his brother, who also became a mercenary, but ended up betraying MARC back in Italy when he killed MARC's then girlfriend, and they'd grown up. And that was all we knew. They kind of had a rough childhood together, and they fought for a while back in Italy. Then Randall disappeared. Then all these years later, Moon Knight's on the street, and the Hatchet Man returns looking for Moon Knight. It's a decisive battle, but Randall ends up dying, and then we kind of we don't really hear much about then, and then we kind of jump to the Mark SPECTOR era, where apparently that old Randall was an imposter. And I don't really know much about this MARC SPECTOR thing, so I might leave this to you if you remember.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, as you say, very loosely tied up or retconned in them saying that actually wasn't Randall during the Hulk magazine 17 and 18, because yeah, that was a bit weird. So yeah, he did die. And the funny thing about Randall Spector is that so he appears in 3 major occasions during Moon Knight's canon, and each and every time he dies. So, but he comes back. So anyway, as you said, yeah, the first one, Hatchet Man, very scary. For me, I think it was, I don't know about you, Connor, but like as the Hatchet Man with the pajama bottoms and the Halloween mask and the hatchet, he was he cut quite a scary figure.
Yeah, he was a pretty decent villain for, such early issues.
He was, and there was no shimmying away from showing any graphic content. Like, he goes as far as burying a hatchet or an axe in Marlene's back herself, and she ends up in hospital in this arc, which occurred in Hulk 1718, and so she ends up in hospital. I don't know for the life of me. I don't know how she survived. I mean, from when we covered it and looking through the comic, I mean, it's full force. There was nothing, unless she rolled with the the slasher. I don't know, but she survives anyway, which thankfully is good. But yeah, he absolutely terrorizes New York with killing nurses and as you mentioned before we get into the next. Actually, sorry, kind of to sidetrack the brief history, but I guess it'd be good to just spend a little time on this first, I guess, chapter in Randall's appearances in Moon Knight. So, as you mentioned, he had this this rivalry with his brother Mark, and in Italy, as they're both mercenaries, there seemed to be some sort of falling out. I can't remember why. It may have been because of Randall's MO, or how he did things, that maybe rubbed Mark up the wrong way. Not unlike Bushman in as we see in Volume 1. But anyway, they have a bit of a fracas. It goes into a bit of detail. There's a bit of there's like grenades thrown at each other. Like Mark's pinned behind either a tree or a rock. I can't remember. But it's quite a vicious fight between the two brothers, and it culminates in Randall killing Mark's, I'm assuming, Italian girlfriend at the time. But what happens with this grenade fight, I think it then continues, and Randall gets hideously injured, right? He gets literally kind of blown up. I always think of, Jigsaw from The Punisher. But anyway, so he gets injured. He goes into hospital, and this is where it ties into him wearing the pajamas and him killing nurses. I believe his first victim, when he came out of his coma or injuries, was he killed the nurse at the hospital. Something snapped in his mind. He went more insane than his usual, and that's kind of what triggered him off into this kind of psychopathic, very, for me, the scariest iteration of him, because it's the most real. It's like he's just a well-trained, well-honed guy who has no compunction to...
Yeah, it's kind of what we'll talk about later, what makes the slasher so great.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, so that's the first bit, and as you say, he dies in at the end of this Hulk magazine. He then turns up again in MARC SPECTOR Moon Knight, and it's discovered that he is kind of part of a cult, like the cult of Khonshu. So we see bits of this as well it's not, I wouldn't say set up, but there's an appearance of, I believe, the cult of Khonshu in the Moon Knight and Ghost Rider team up. That was written by Howard Mackie and drawn by Mark Bagley. Fantastic. I think the guys again at Inner Demons, I think they review it, and I jumped on their show to talk about it as well. One of the really good issues, Connor. You've got to read it if you haven't. Well drawn, really fun. Has a over the top '90s villain called Plasma. She's just psycho. She's a mutant. Anyway, so she leads a band of these Cult of Khonshu people, and anyway, they're defeated, but they turn up again in MARC Spectre Moon Knight issues 35 to 38. So this is an arc called Blood Brothers, and in here he's I guess he's no longer totally human. He has still a penchant for using an axe and killing nurses, which is a bit of a tie, but it is a bit strange because, as you say, he's been retconned as it not being really him in the Hulk magazine. So anyway, he's got the pajama bottoms, he's got the axe, he likes still killing, I guess, nurses, but he's also granted lunar treatments by the leader now of the Cult of Khonshu, and that is Princess Nephis, and she kind of gives him kind of like Luke Cage. She gives him impenetrable skin and superhuman strength, and so with that he becomes more of a formidable character against Moon Knight. They cause all sorts of havoc. Moon Knight teams up with the Punisher this time. Very cool. In the 90s, like, the Punisher was very popular. So to have him in the books may have been to try to boost sales. It could have been for Moon Knight. But nevertheless, it was fun to have the Punisher alongside Moon Knight. During that run as well, you actually see, of course, you see Moon Knight and Punisher tussle as well. There's a bit of a... there's a bit too much testosterone there, Connor, between the two, which is funny because originally the Punisher always seemed to respect Moon Knight because he kind of empathized, if you can actually say that of the Punisher, empathizing with someone, but he empathized with Moon Knight's mission of basically being an avatar of vengeance. But in this iteration, in this arc, the Blood Brothers, he rubs up. They get into a bit of a fight. So that happens. Randall again, I think he attacks Marlene. So it's almost as if it's kind of like a soft recon, a soft reboot of the Hulk 17-18 arc to me, but with superhuman strength and unbreakable skin. And anyway, what happens at the end? He dies at the end again. Oh god, I can't remember. But yeah, anyway, he doesn't survive. I can't remember if I think he falls off the roof or something. I can't remember at the hands of the Punisher or Moon Knight, but he meets an end there. And then he disappears for a while. And he returns again, Connor, in the third resurrection, so to speak.
Yeah, he pops up in Shadowland. So Shadowland is the big event where a dark spirit takes control of Daredevil, and he becomes the leader of the Hand, leading a big, massive street-level war. And Moon Knight is one of the people, who is set to, fight Daredevil. But Daredevil realizes he's a threat, so he contacts a pretty great villain, the Profile. Well, villain.
Yeah.
Guy. We all love him from the Houston run. And Daredevil wants the Profile to get someone to kill Moon Knight. So he finds Randall Spector by discovering, probably done something cool where he realizes that, rightfully so, that Mark's belief in Moon Knight himself is because he believes he's special and the one true avatar of vengeance. So he finds Randall and convinces a very, about to kill himself, lived in suffering, just completely in the dark, nothing's good gone in his life since forever. And he convinces him that he's now the true, avatar of vengeance, and that he needs to become Shadow Knight, I believe, is what he's called, and kill Moon Knight to become Khonshu's one true, son, basically.
Mm.
And it's also... Oh, sorry?
No, just... Sorry, go on, Connor. I was just saying it's a bit weird. I found this third resurrection of Randall a bit weird as well. Like, he got the powers, right? He got these weird, funky powers and became Shadow Knight. Does it mention? I can't remember if it actually mentions how he got them. Like he actually, I think he talks to some, how shall we say, ladies of the night. You're introduced to that in Shadowlands Moon Knight, and he blasts them with something.
Yeah, I was confused. I've always been confused on that. I always just assumed he got the eye blast in MARC SPECTOR Moon Knight, but apparently not, huh?
No, not at all. No, he didn't have anything of that. So I'm not sure whether it's Khonshu helping him or something. But you're saying that, obviously the profile is telling Randall that he is the new avatar of Khonshu, but does Khonshu agree with this at all? If not, then how does he form these latent powers? Yeah, it's bit of...
we also get, I guess, a bit more background than I think we ever got on Mark and Randall's relationship as kids in the Spectre household. You realise that, Randall and Mark were quite, war focused, playing their cops and robbers and army men, so pretty violent. Well, just sort of kids, but has that kind of, something more going under the surface. And it's obviously that influence for the rest of his life, but the biggest thing was rejection from his parents, poor Randall, that drove him to joining the mercenary, where he was finally, recognized as something special within himself, as kind of a parallel to Mark, and then he loses his wife because he loses his job at the army. It's kind of rushed through that, but you kind of learn that Randall's big villain motives were really this lack of respect from his parents, and he tried to make it up elsewhere, and it led him down a dark path.
Yeah, I think we'll get to some of the loony feedback on the characters. I think, and rightly so, Randall he's a bit of a patchwork, isn't he, throughout the Moon Knight canon? It's almost as if there was an idea at first of what to do with him, or actually, and then him dying in that Hulk magazine. Then some writers thought, why don't we bring him back? He's a bit of a legacy character. Let's make him a legacy character for Moon Knight. And they've tried to kind of bring him in, but it doesn't seem to work. I think as well. I find him a very interesting character, and I think he's got a lot of potential. But the reasonings why, it's kind of like they're kind of reverse engineering it, and it's not. I don't know. I'm not buying it. If that makes any sense. Like, this whole thing about his family turning him this way, sure, I mean, that could be a good reason, but they haven't given to me a good enough reason for him to be the way he is.
Well, I think... Oh, sorry, did you have a bit to finish there?
No, I'm just saying that then there's a potential there to actually really get into it and stop faffing around with him and and stop killing him after each arc, If you're going to use him like a Bushman or a Morpheus, keep him around and have him escape at the end or something and then build and become more of a villain later. But they've kind of done the damage early, and it's kind of hard now. He seems to be going along a very bumpy path.
Yeah, it's just I think Chad brought it up when we get to talking about this, but they just tried so hard to add some new edge to Moon Knight's backstory, and they've done it 3 times, and every time it's just been unsuccessful. It's just, they're trying so hard to make this character something, but I don't know, it's always just missing something. I never find him... I've read the MARC SPECTOR Moon Knight issues, so I'm really just talking about 2 here, sorry, but I've just never found him ultimately compelling. He was cool as a slasher villain, but his backstory in Italy wasn't super amazing, and then we get to this to Shadowland, which I think is actually a pretty decent miniseries, and I like him as a threat in that. But once again, this backstory they give him, like you're so right about the backstory with his family and all that, and it just adds more complications, and even timeline wise, we've now got the Lemire run, which shows a different side of Mark's family, and does Randall even matter anymore? It's just so different, and and I think he's great at being a formidable foe, but it's just such a ham-fisted attempt to get, some sort of family drama more than just mental illness in Moon Knight's backstory, and it just falls flat on his face every time.
Yeah, and also with just going on with the Bemis run as well, with Mark's relationship with his father now. I mean, there's always been a strained relationship between Mark's father, Eli, who was a pacifist, and Mark, who obviously loved kind of the military and all that. So, there's more of the familial stuff there. Yeah, you're right. I mean, is there room enough now for Randall? He seems to be popping up, but he seems to be kind of like no one really knows what to do with him. And, yeah, I mean, I'm looking up here. I just wanted to also just go back a bit in the Mark Spector thing. So I just looked at his demise here. So he does fall out. He does fall to his death. The Punisher basically covers in machine gun bullets. His unbreakable skin, he starts becoming very brittle, and he almost kind of like cracks away like a statue, but he falls down like a multi-story building from a hospital because he tries to kill Frenchie, and he becomes literally a broken man. Like there's a shot of him on the autopsy table, and his leg is like 100 pieces because he's almost made out of glass or stone. So something there from Princess Nephis has done something to his physiology. But yeah, so he dies in that as well. But it's just very. I don't know, there are three distinct stages to him. They're all so different. The most successful one, I think, is the Moench one at the beginning with the Hatchet Man. I mean, he really was an intimidating figure. I think what they probably could do is just, again, they'll have to rewrite him. Maybe keep some elements in if they're going to introduce him. But if they want him to last longer, if they want him to actually have some sort of impact, they've got to put a twist on him somehow. I don't know. Throwing it out there, Connor, maybe like Sabretooth and Wolverine, maybe he becomes good for a bit. I don't know. You do something to kind of make Randall not this one-dimensional, I'm a psycho character who just happens to die all the time and hate his brother. I mean, that's all he does, doesn't he?
Yeah, and that's kind of his only motivation as well.
That's it.
And, I think even reading these... I read the Shadowland run again, which I think is, it was good. But, I was just reading it, and I was just so much more interested in the profile, reading the profile again. And then, Shadow Knight shows up, and, there's all that fighting and all that... there's some great introspection with Mark, who's now going by Jake, and Khonshu in his head, and that's also interesting, but Randall's just some force of nature attacking him, it's just nothing about him being Mark's brother made him so special, which is obviously what they were so importantly going for. Yeah.
And the art in the Shadowlands is glorious with the Moon Knight thing. I must admit, though, I did read that recently as well, Khonshu, and I wanted to really like it, Shadowlands Moon Knight, because the overall Shadowlands to me wasn't that crash hot. But I can't say it's I can't say that I'm rushing to read it again. But the only interesting things for me, exactly as you say, were the profile, and just seeing Shadow Knight drawn. I think it was really the art. I can't remember who the artist was. Very nice indeed. Anyway, we do have some feedback from some loonies for Randall a Spectre, Khonshu. Shall we get cracking with these?
Yeah, I feel like, we spoke a bit about him, kind of our thoughts on him, and I think the loonies really dropped some great lines in here that adds a lot to our own, just to the general discussion. So very happy with what we got put in here from our lovely community, from both our Facebook page, facebook.com/ITKMoonKnight, and our group, facebook.com/group/ITKMoonKnight. All the chat happening there with these bunch of lovely people and more.
Yeah, they've got some really great ideas, and look, as usual, we'll kick it off. We'll alternate between the two. Khonshu, why don't you go first from the Facebook page?
Yeah, from Facebook page, got great Richard Brown Jr. Always drops in a great line from episode to episode. He says, Randall's first appearance as Hatchet Man is one of my favourite MK stories. It's such a dark plot as he stalked the streets of Manhattan. His second was an unfortunate retcon, but his last appearance as Shadow Knight was welcomed for the Shadowland tie-in. I was hoping Randall would come back with more development.
Yeah. I mean, that pretty much sums up what we were saying.
Yeah.
He even really truncates the second appearance in MARC SPECTOR Moon Knight with just his second was an unfortunate retcon. and thanks, Richard. He's just left it at that. Look.
I think that was a lot in the 90s too, just a lot of weird retcons going on. What was happening there?
Look, without stirring the pot too much, this Blood Brothers, which is a pretty fun arc anyway, I much preferred it over that Infinity Crusade stuff that we covered kind of in MARC SPECTOR Moon Knight. That was just, I have no idea what the hell was going on there. This was a bit of fun. It's got Punisher. There's a bit of action. The art is decent. But I mean, Randall as a character there, if you are a Randall fan, was just weird. So and rightly so, Richard. Yeah, hoping Randall would come back with more development. I like the character. I think there is so much potential there. So let's see what happens. And yeah, maybe whoever is next writing, maybe Donny Cates, can do it. All right, next we have some messages from our Facebook group. And do you mind if I take the next two because they're from the same guy? Yep. So we have, very pleased to have Anthony Sitko, one of our loonies, but also a host on Capes on the Couch, a fantastic podcast. Loonies, get out there, have a look. We've mentioned it before. It's dealing with psychology of comic book characters and any mental issues that characters have. And let's face it, in the comic book universe, there are a lot of characters with a lot of mental issues. I was saying maybe we should request that to Anthony, that they do an episode on Randall Spector. That would be strange. There's not much material to work with.
Yeah, if there's enough there, but if there is...
Yeah, maybe that would be... Yeah, anyway, Anthony says, can we talk about how much Shadowland sucked? They hype up the Crescent as the only thing that can stop the beast. Mark nearly gets killed trying to get it, and then he uses it on Randall with no resolution whatsoever to the main arc. Anthony goes on to say, see, I don't mind the main Shadowland story. I thought it was interesting and a good way to get the street-level guys their own crossover, but Mark's part was entirely superfluous. Hurwitz did a better job on Vengeance of the Moon Knight, but this tie-in was weak sauce. Your thoughts there, Connor, on these comments?
I think I definitely agree. I think the mini is pretty fun. It's got some fun art and does some pretty violent things. I like the Khonshu dynamic. But yeah, I couldn't agree more that I dislike Shadowland as a whole. I think it's got some very good ideas and does some good things with them, but doesn't really pull it together well at all. And yeah, that Crescent Darts was 100% one of the biggest missteps, trying to hype up Moon Knight for us and just doing nothing with him. The Power Man Iron Fist one was good though. That was generally good. Yeah,
there was some cool bits in there. I don't know. I'm a Daredevil fan as well. I not the biggest fan of him going. I guess it might be similar to Secret Empire, the way that Cap fans were up in arms maybe at how Captain America was turned into a Hydra agent. We all know that was resolved itself later on, and same with this. Daredevil resolved himself during Shadowlands, but yeah, I don't know. It just wasn't my favourite Shadowlands thing. So I agree with you, Anthony, as well. Vengeance of the Moon Knight, it is that's one of the runs that I do like rereading as well. That is a very fun run. There's enough of everything there. A lot of action. I love Crawley in it as well. Very cool indeed. We have another one from one of our loyal listeners here, Khonshu.
Yes. Dropping in from Rafael Santos. I just read Shadowland with Randall, and with that story isolated, it looks like he was Oh yeah, I love this theory. This was fantastic. It looks like he was some of Mark's delusional character. Delusion shared with his father. Bemis wrote that his father was kind of insane as well, and it fit as much as Marlene's pregnancy that she probably didn't lose it, but tried to hide it from Mark, bringing his Beatrice. Of course, I'm wrong about that, but it could explain why he always comes back and fits with Mark's loneliness in Lemire's run when he was a kid, which is a fucking brilliant theory. Raphael, shout out. If that was canon, I'd be over the moon.
Massive shout out, Raphael. I forgot about this. This is a brilliant theory. Marvel, if you're listening, sign this guy up. He has got ideas. He can explain a lot here. This is fantastic. Even to the point where Marlene's miscarriage is explained as well. Like, I love how Raphael says that it's just a ruse to hide Beatrice, which again fits in with the Bemis run. So very cool indeed. And Randall as a delusional character. I think that's really cool. It almost makes me want to reread it all and see if it's kind of like a Sixth Sense thing, Connor. See if you can read it as if Randall doesn't interact with anyone else. I'm sure he does, but whether he doesn't interact with anyone else and he can just be seen as Mark's delusion. But fantastic, Raphael. Keep them coming. This is the sort of thing that we loonies love. Anyway, so we have another comment here from the power of Chad. This is Chad, one of our mainstay loonies, and obviously one of our co-hosts every now and again, and special guest. And anyway, he says Randall is a bad attempt at getting even more tragic backstory annexed into Moon Knight's past. In the comics, he's sort of a one-trick pony and lacks real depth of character. I've seen robots with more interesting stories, and I mean that 100%. Whether it's hatchet in hand or wearing dirty bedsheets, Randy is a disappointing attempt at getting real drama and intrigue into the story. But hey, maybe it'll change later. This pretty much kind of summarised our thoughts, didn't it, Connor?
Yep, very nicely. Kind of wraps it together.
So
much potential, so wasted.
Exactly, and a one-trick pony. I think that very, very true. I mean, it's just basically a brother who hates Mark, is insane, and will just try and kill him, with a hatchet. So, or just try and kill him, basically. Anyway, Khonshu, why don't you take the other ones from Chad as well? But how about you wrap up with the last three comments here?
I can do that. Chad also says, the ideal of Randall is interesting. His delivery always tends to be a tad flat, almost like no one wanted to flesh him out a bit more, relying on his background to do the work for him. I really hope someone works on him again and finishes putting life into his personality. Very true.
Absolutely. He needs that. I just feel he needs some sort of edge. He needs some sort of difference. That's why I was kind of mentioning, does he become good for a bit or whatever? Because he's such a one-trick pony. It's just really one-dimensional.
And then two little fun comments. Dustin says he needs like 200% more axe murdering before I get fully on board his crazy train. And Rick, our 90s love and friend, says he's great target practice for Frank Castle, which I imagine happens in the MARC SPECTOR run. He
does. Well, yeah, Frank gets in there. I don't know if it's even target practice. He just sprays him with 100 bullets, and he's a goner. He falls out a high-story window. Yeah, definitely. And from Dustin, cold case Kurtz. Look, I still remember one of Dustin's comments on his Isla Ras with you, Connor. He mentioned something along the lines of, if no one dies in the issue, I'm not happy, or something like that. Dustin, he's loving his gore and graphicness of violence. So good on you, Dustin. Let's bring more axe murdering into the fore. So so those were our thoughts on Randall Spector. I think a rather in-depth summary of him. I think literally he doesn't turn up anywhere else other than those three instances. So check them out. In the show notes, we'll put in those issues where he does show up. And if you want, just check him out for yourself. Right, well, we might head off to one other break, Connor. And we'll hear again from one of our lovely collective members, and we'll be back for our Lunapic review.
Hi, this is Chris.
And this is Brian.
And we are the hosts of Inner Demons, the Ghost Rider podcast.
And you can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, and other podcast apps for all your Ghost Rider needs.
Ride on.
Yes, welcome back everyone to this mammoth first episode of the year. We're not done just yet. We hit that spotlight now. We got a fun little review. We're continuing our run on the first volume, the much beloved first volume, the most important first volume, and we're continuing with issue 2, the Slasher. And I'll hand it over to Ray. Why don't you give us a little bit of the credits here, maybe even our slither.
Ooh. Okay, sure. Well, so this is Volume 1, Issue 2, The Slasher, released December 1980, to round off that year. Writer Doug Moench, artist Bill Sienkiewicz, inker Frank Springer, colorist Carl Gafford, letterer Annette Kowecki, and editors Dennis O'Neill and Mark Grunwald. Right, so, in a sliver of this, basically what happens is that there is a serial killer out on the loose killing homeless people. Crawley gets involved because his friends on the streets are dying. Obviously Moon Knight is interested in this Skid Row slasher. Turns out that the slasher is Crawley's son, who hates Crawley because he left the family or ruined the family. And it ends in an unfortunate death in the son. Crawley is bereaved, and everyone is sad. That's it. There you go. That's basically the slasher. They're obviously loonies. There's a lot more to it than that. But yeah, that basically is the gist of it. Oh, I forgot to mention also as well, so this, you have no excuses, loonies. This is readily available anywhere. It's available as a single issue still. I believe one of the loonies, I think it's Noel, who also is responsible for our music, Connor. I think he said as well he picked it up at a bargain bin over in the US. It's also a backstory in one of the graphic novels, which I haven't got over here. I think it's I haven't got it listed here, but it is actually a backup story in one of the graphic novels. It's available on Comixology, digital, I think Marvel Unlimited. It's in the old Essential Moon Knight Volume 1, and it's in the Epic Collection Moon Knight, the first one called Bad Moon Rising. So that one's in colour. So, yep, it's readily available everywhere. Connor, first impressions for this issue. What did you think the sophomore issue from Doug Moench?
Back at it. It is, I think the best way to describe it is very dated, but underneath that is a pretty great story. I think this is probably one of the more dated issues of Moench's run. But I think, under this it's a pretty great second issue. It's a great story that really shows why Moon Knight is different from so many other heroes and the topics they'll be tackling. Fleshes out his not only his character, but his world, his supporting cast, introduces a new status quo, and gives a surprisingly, sad and, emotionally, connecting story. The writing doesn't quite hold it up anymore in, 2018, but just all these individual pieces of what's underneath is pretty strong, honestly. And I've said to Ray before, if this was rewritten today, I feel like it'd be pretty damn good issue.
Yeah, exactly. Apart from as you say, the very dated bits of writing. Look, also, having said that as well, I found Moench's writing still very, very, man, he's got glimpses of really nice, very Moench-like stuff. It's even the very first, if I can just read, it's on the second page, it's at the top. He says, the Bowery at night drips with shadows and an almost palpable mist of despair. Filth, misery, hopelessness and fear, trash in gutters, whimpering dogs, and winos sprawled in doorways. Into this hell slinks a man of erratic gait and strange eyes, a man with a quest. I mean, that's just really nice, a really beautiful piece of writing, right? It's comics don't call for this sort of writing, but comics writers are, don't get me wrong, writers are great. Comic book writers are great, but they don't necessarily have to go in such a lyrical, we've said this before, lyrical or poetic sort of prose, but Moench does this time and time again. This is only the second issue. There's also another, in page 6, there's a very small little thing, hardly noticed in the city, the dawn nevertheless breaks. I mean, that sort of stuff. This stuff could be like lyric, like it could be a song. That's what I'm thinking. But yeah, as you say, kind of dated. There are bits here, like as you mentioned, like when you say dated, I'm thinking about, so when Moon Knight first attacks these muggers who's attacking this guy. What he does is that he explains out loud how proud he is of his new weapon. And, this day and age, you wouldn't have heroes going, oh, maybe this night ain't a total waste after all, seeing as how you're kind enough to let me try out my new improved truncheon. This sort of stuff is a bit corny in the writing, but nevertheless, it is of its time. So,
it drops an Oriental comment, which isn't great these days. But
oh, right, yes, yeah. Where's that one? Sorry, kind of.
It's like the first one he's talking about the truncheon.
Oh, yes. Yeah. The Orientals swear by him. Yeah, of course. Oh, yeah, that's right. But yeah,
I love the 80s.
Oh, yeah. Nothing, no holds barred for the 80s here. So how the kids? Yeah, they're still black, but not so proud anymore. But anyway.
Yeah, once again. Oh,
sorry. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just starting a new point, I guess, that, flicking through this, it's just kind of got a lot of that exposition, pages just filled with text boxes upon text boxes.
It is a meaty bit of writing, isn't it? That's a good and a bad thing. Sometimes I do love the fact that the 80s, you do get a lot of prose, not to the point where obviously that they're describing what you actually see, which is a double up, but sometimes I feel modern comics don't write enough, and I don't know. Sometimes you want to just dive in, and like when I did this reread of this issue, I knew that I had a fair bit of time with this issue to read through it. So I just enjoyed it. I savoured it, but at the same time, as you say, it can be too verbose, a bit too much. But yeah, I mean, if you certainly look at the page, that they are very filled. So sorry, Connor. Any big points for this issue for you?
So I'll start off. It's just a really great thing to take, this superhero character and be like, yeah, we'll really stick with the street level by giving him this, what kind of be like Frank Miller-esque that he did later with, Daredevil, or even earlier. I can't remember my timeline right, but just the idea of this slasher is, just a really good, violent villain, kind of even an updated version, the Hatchet Man.
Yep. Yes,
and
it is.
It's just a great one. But yeah, I think this one really works just because the way it involves Crawley and Gina. Crawley gives us a lot of emotional depth to the story. His character's played out really well. The life of, the homeless people on the streets, that dark, gritty, sad life they live is pretty well represented for, even more, emotional gravitas, Gina and Crawley both then being revealed, Mark revealing his Moon Knight personality to them, getting them to work with him, and it's just a great expansion in a second issue that really worked.
Yeah, and there's as you mentioned, there's a bit of social commentary here, as you say, with the homeless people. I think it's furthered more where Moench just slips in a few more little things, a few little more nods of, I guess, maybe signs of the time as well. So with the homeless, this whole homeless people getting murdered, you see the police not too fussed with it. There's a whole discussion between a police officer and Jenna, and the police officer saying, yeah, well, if it was a rich guy, we would get detectives and stuff on it. It's just a homeless guy. Who's going to miss them? And Jenna goes, well, I am. Well, he's a friend of mine, if he got killed. And he goes, well, if people did care about them, they wouldn't be bums, would they? So there's this perception of, I guess, how the authorities view the homeless people and how maybe society views the homeless people, which Moench brings forth. And he also, a bit earlier on in the hospital, when Crawley makes it to the hospital, there's a little, I don't know, maybe a little stab towards the medical system in the US.
I 100% agree. Yeah.
Yeah, the doctor seems more interested in, I guess, Crawley's health insurance than his well-being. And Jenna sets the doctor straight, saying, don't worry, you'll get your blood money. And she goes, no, take me to him because I like to see what kind of care we're buying. So she's very sarcastic towards him. And I think Moench is obviously, saying something there.
And I feel like that actually kind of hold up pretty well. The scene with Gina and the police officer and then, the doctor actually still holds up pretty good social commentary.
And it's a good just dialogue, isn't it? I mean, it had me. For me, it wasn't just padding. It actually kept me interested, and it was a smart way, I think, of Moench to actually just add that in, as a bit of extra bits to the story. As you mentioned, also, Connor, so with Jenna, these other characters, we really do get a fleshing out of the likes of Marlene, Crawley, obviously, Jenna, and her two sons, Ricky and Ray. This is pretty cool, and it's an important issue in the fact that this is where MARC reveals his secret identity to these supporting characters. So it's almost a statement from Doug Moench that, okay, these characters, these are going to be the supporting characters because they now know that MARC is Moon Knight, and MARC has offered Ricky and Ray like a job as kind of unofficial, I don't know what you call them, gophers or sleuths, and so I think that's a big part of this issue. Also with Marlene, what I found interesting, apart from her yet again being in her lingerie and swanning around the bedroom, what I found interesting here, Connor, was her discussion with MARC and Moench's kind of fleshing out of MARC's other personalities. So here we see that Moench really is starting to define MARC's identities through Marlene's discussions with MARC. She is constantly saying, she's saying, you realise you're one person, right? It's not, there's not much difference between you and Moon Knight. And MARC is saying, no, hang on, there are big differences here. Moon Knight, and MARC is describing how different, basically, in character Moon Knight is. So he's basically saying, yep, Moon Knight is this totally different identity. And he keeps on at it, like, she goes, that's bull, Stephen, and you know it, and it scares me. And he goes, no, Moon Knight scares you. So he's not letting up these different identities. But Marlene is always questioning him and the validity of I guess, Moon Knight, the identity as well. So, we're getting a bit more of that in here, which I found was an important part of the story.
Yeah, I found... just on that, definitely one of the weaker parts too was I felt like Moench hasn't quite figured out how to write Marlene. She's pretty paper thin at the moment. I think he definitely gets there. For sure. Probably around like issue 12 and 13. I feel like she definitely starts to pick up as a character. But here she's just kind of she's a good view of MARC's personality. That's a great point, and something you definitely realize. Yeah, and it's a great tool used for writing by Moench, but she doesn't quite become that interesting or that interesting as a character until he gets a bit more of a groove later on and stops kind of showing her in underwear doing weird aerobics.
Yeah, that's right. And then, of course, so apart from Jenna, Marlene, and her boys, of course we have Crawley, and this is one of the issues where Crawley gets a lot under the spotlight, which is really good. What did you think of the twist at the end of him being the father, or the father of the slasher?
Look, definitely saw it coming.
Yeah,
but I feel like Crawl. You've I've seen it done better, of course, because times pass and different writers. But I think even though I saw it coming, him talking about his past and his wife and his son was really connecting. I feel like those flashback scenes, Sienkiewicz does really carries that deep sadness that Crawley always has to live with, and the shocking end to this issue as well just really drives home that Crawley's a lot more interesting a character than some often that he first appeared to be, and then often that he doesn't get as much credit with later.
Yeah, I mean, he's blessed with, we do get in basically half or maybe one page, we get an origin of Crawley, which is great. He is a textbook salesman, and life on the road has him falling in love with a bit of the drink, and obviously to the detriment of his family, unfortunately, and of course that is the decisive factor why the slasher came to be. I mean, I guess in hindsight, it is very obvious as well. I'd like to pick up maybe a little blooper here as well, or maybe you can explain this to me, Connor, as well. So we get the slasher very very enigmatic at the beginning, right? And he comes across Reno Eddie, I think that's his name, and I'm just pulling up the page now. And he seems to ask the homeless people the same questions. So he's saying, obviously, he's in a bit of a mental state. And he asks for a light. And he goes, have you got any wife or kids? And then he goes, do you have it? Were you in Trenton, New Jersey 20 years ago? Answer me, were you? And, he repeats this to every victim before he kills them. Now, not wanting to cause any ripples in the water here, Connor. So obviously he's traumatized by Crawley leaving, right? Where I'm going with this is that Reno Eddie's black, right? Surely he didn't think that he was his father. Like, he's looking for his father, right, to kill him. He's looking for Crawley to kill him. So he's asking all these homeless people, are you the guy in Trenton 20 years ago? Did you have a wife and kids?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, unless, of course, it was some sort of loop, some sort of mental loop that he's in.
Yeah,
regardless of
just his mind's just that far gone.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of what threw me a bit when, at the end it's like, oh, it's his son. I remember when I first read this issue, I thought that twist was a bit... I can't say I saw it coming, but I just thought it was a bit bleh. I didn't really. It's like, what, really? Making his, why would you want to connect it? Why would you want to make him his son? Like, kind of thing. It's just too all close knit for the sake of being close knit. That was my impression first off. But then, like, reading it, it's like, well, this guy's looking at people with different backgrounds, and he's asking them, "Are you my dad?" Basically. But yeah, that could be his mental issue. And that's,
and I actually, I think it's a good point of the issue that I don't actually find the slasher as interesting or compelling a villain. It's just kind of what happens around him, what the characters go through, and how it sets up a further status quo that makes this issue better. I like the him fighting a slasher, but that kind of side of it just it gave us good personality to the Crawley, but Slasher himself as a character was just kind of nothing in the end, I guess. Just some words and something he was searching for. Yeah,
and the Slasher is, for all intents, he's no hatchet man. He's no ex-merc, He's a normal dude who has mental issues, who unfortunately, he's going around killing people. So he's dangerous in that sense. But up against Moon Knight, up against a superhero, no challenge whatsoever, you'd think. So, so he wasn't, he didn't really pose, it didn't seem he posed that much of a danger. But yeah, the importance of the story came about what was built around that. And as you say, him being the son at the end, and us finding more about Mark's or Moon Knight's supporting characters, that's what's kind of made this issue for me interesting. I love it also how Crawley constantly has flies swarming around him, even in court. I think he's
never showers.
Never showers. He's combed his hair. He's in a blue suit. He's got his striped tie, but he still stinks apparently. So found that a bit weird. But yeah, so I don't know. Any other points here?
Sienkiewicz's art is probably the last thing I want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, a lot more basic than we know to love from later in the 80s, but definitely not bad. I still love how he draws Moon Knight. It's very simple compared to what would be his edgier, more scratchy, incredible style that is just impossible not to love. But Moon Knight has a very great presence. Him fighting and the white figure, the colorists and inkers do a great job of making Moon Knight stand out in a book that's, has a lot of shadows and a lot of darker colours. There's some great moments, if I can just find the page, I'm going to keep going, where, his panel work really shines, I think. Page 19, showing Crawley's backstory, is
yes.
a fantastic, 6 panels. I love Moon Knight in a hat and a bloody coat. That is ridiculously good. Him jumping across the rooftop is also good. But yeah, it's kind of just... It's still very good, but just mostly okay. In some cases. Like, very readable, but not what we'd come to love.
No, he does... and again, you see it in the earlier issues like this one, obviously issue 2. He does really good portraiture. Like the faces, like there's page 17 of Ricky and Ray. They're under dim light in a car, but really a good amount of detail. Again, Crawley, as he cries in page 21 after recounting his origin, really nice, emotive kind of looks on the face there. And he's definitely got that fluidity in motion, influence from Neil Adams, of course, who, the one Batman referenced this episode is famous for Batman.
If we get it.
And so you see a lot of movement, a lot of fluid kinetic movement of Moon Knight as he jumps and spins and kicks and stuff. Very lithe, very flexible, and so we're used to seeing that now. I remember issue 1, Connor, you mentioned about Moon Knight's almost inhuman pose that he pulled when he kicked 2 people over his head, almost like a backflip. It was weird. So you get more of that here. So Sienkiewicz does really good here. The colours, colours are good. I mean, they're very not much. I think a lot of colours make up a lack of background from Sienkiewicz. I'm not sure if that is intentional. I think it's more so maybe something that Sienkiewicz didn't get around doing, so they just coloured those panels with a flat colour at the back. But having said that, not saying that he's rushed this issue at all. There's some great detail here, so maybe he just ran out of time. I mean, the standards that he set himself were just quite high with what he could achieve in the time. Also, just other little tidbits here. I also like, again, as Jake Lockley, page 17, there's a middle panel here. He's helping an elderly lady with her luggage from the cab. Just made me think, so for a large portion of the day, perhaps, Jake would actually have to be a servicing taxi driver. So I thought that would be a really fun thing to look into, like a story-wise. Because you know how it's interesting to, conversations with taxi cab drivers and, what the customers that they come across. It'll be quite almost amusing and interesting to see Jake a day in the life of Jake as he picks up some just normal people, the lifeblood of New York City, and see who he comes across. I thought that would be pretty fun. But other than that, just obviously a little bit of Doug Moench's. He talked about his new weaponry again, the truncheons, and he also addresses getting changed into the costume. So he's got a secret compartment now in his taxi cab, rather than what we previously saw him getting changed out the boot of his car.
That was an important update.
That was it. Yeah, a bit more covert now. He can just probably get changed within the car, and So little details here that Moench addresses, I think, is pretty important. But overall tone is pretty good. It's very street level. And really sets the tone for, I think, street level or supernatural, regardless of the world that Moench creates for Moon Knight. So overall a good issue. Having said that, and for those that don't know, we do our Moon rating now, a highly convoluted system.
We love it.
We love it. The phases of the moon, equal to out of 10, I guess. But half moon being 5 out of 10, full moon 10 out of 10, new moon a 0 out of 10. We've got our quarter moons, all that sort of jazz. So having said that, Khonshu, what would you give this Doug Moench's issue 2, volume 1, The Slasher?
I'd give it the 3/4 moon, so about a 7.5 out of 10. Like I said,
nice.
It's dated. Marlene doesn't quite shine through, some dated dialogue, a lot of text. The Slash doesn't quite, really also shine as a villain either, but it does great for Mark, Moon Knight, Gina, Crawley. There's some still genuinely good social commentary. It adds so much to the like I said, those characters and the status quo. The art isn't always the strongest, but it can be super strong and is at least always good to look at. Mm-hmm. I feel like the good thing about Moench's run is that every Mooney fan should read it, because no matter how dated it is, there is still something good underneath it that will entirely influence the character to come, or maybe it may even make you love the character more, no matter how dated it is. So I'm pretty comfortable in a 7.5. I'd happily read this again, and probably will.
Yeah, I'm happy to read it as well. Again, I'm pretty keen to, because I've been reading off a digital, but I'm keen to crack open the Epic Collection and give that a read. I think I also read it off the Essential, like in black and white, and let me tell you, Sienkiewicz's art in black and white still works. It's really nice. That newspaper stock as well from the Essential volumes. Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah, it actually adds to it. It creates a nice tone to it. So so that's a good read. But I might give it another read as well in the Epic Collection, which is in color, better stock as well. A lot of fun. I would give this maybe slightly under yours, Khonshu. I did enjoy it, and it's definitely worth a reread as well. I'd rate it above, say, the likes of Shadowland. I'd give it maybe a 7. So a waning. I think that's a waning gibbous. So 7 out of 10. Definitely worth it. Yours was 7.5, was it? 3/4? Yeah.
3/4.
Yeah, so 7.25 average. I think it's definitely worth a read. Easily available loonies, worth checking out. It is different, as Connor mentioned. It is of its time. So I don't know, for the listeners that are more used to modern comics, there is a lot more dialogue, a lot more text. But don't see that as a bad thing. Just set yourself a nice amount of time to just kind of casually go through it, and believe me, you'll enjoy it. It is a decent run. Before we end this review of this issue, Connor, we do have some feedback from the Facebook group. So I will again look. I'll take the short one. I'll give you the longer one. So we got a couple of quick comments from our Facebook group on issue 2, and the first one is from Oscar Gosden Wilson. Hello, Oscar, and thanks for writing in. Please keep them coming as well. We do love to hear from all the loonies, or as many loonies as possible. And he writes, I read this one in the digital edition of the Lemire run. Right, so that was what I was trying to remember, Connor. It was at the end of the Lemire run, I think, the Lemire trade.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether it was the first volume or the third volume, but
yeah, one of the volumes. Yeah, so it's available there too. For those that do love the Lemire run, you'll be able to easily read this. But yeah, thanks, Oscar. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoyed our discussion of it. Yeah, how about the our next?
Yes, good friend Noel Tate, as we were saying before, found in Dollabin. Fantastic, love him. He says, great issue for only the second issue of Mooney's first solo run. Informs a lot of the style of the Mensch/Sienkiewicz run and a lot of Moon Knight in general for years after. I enjoy the Neil Adams-isms of Bill's early art. I first read this as a backup reprint in the back of one of the Lemire trades and recently found it in a dollar bin of a local shop. Quite the find. Last note's on my favourite onomatopoeia ever. Just a great summary of what we were saying. Probably
definitely.
Somewhat better said.
Onomatopoeia. Did you pick up the onomatopoeia? I didn't. Can't say I took notice of that. Oh, like shock. Oh, there you go. The shot. What else is? What have we got there? Bram. Oh, okay. Page 28, Connor.
Is it the wank one? Yeah.
I didn't notice that. Right. Yep. Fantastic there, Noel. I'm assuming that's what you're referring to. Yep, so we do have a wank in there. Yeah, good stuff. I'm just looking at the other ones. Clash, all the others are pretty standard, except for that one. Good. Excellent. Thank you, Noel. Thank you, Oscar, for those comments. Well, that pretty much wraps us up, Khonshu, for our first episode of 2019. What do you reckon? You up vibe? You interested in what's to come?
Yeah, bloody oath. I'll be posting something in the group probably the day this goes up. I want to get something kickstarted. I'm talking with Ray. We got more reviews coming up, plus some really exciting stuff. Some more guests, some bigger reviews of some more different stuff than we've ever tackled before. It's going to be a big year and hopefully grow as much as we did last year. So
yeah, absolutely,
really exciting.
Yeah, can't wait. There's so many other things. We've got, as for those loonies that have seen our moon chart for phases of the moon, we do have other segments there that we didn't even come across last year because the Eye of Khonshu, the phases of the moon, had not decreed it, but they pop up this year. So yeah, the likes of, we've got other segments there. So you'll just have to wait and see. We can't wait to talk about them. For Spectacle. Okay, for Spectacle, we chatted before. Just a couple of shout-outs. And the first shout-out, I'd like to shout out the nation of France and all the French loonies out there. Thank you so much, loonies, French loonies, for listening. We've received actually the last few weeks or so now a massive spike in French listeners. So I'm not sure what instigated that. Yeah, I don't know. Connor, you're not in France, are you? You're not lying to me. You're not in Toowoomba. You're in France, aren't you? I don't know. But anyway, thank you to the French. Yes, I hope you will stick with us, and I hope the other countries, will follow. Also, as well, finally, as a Spectacle, a little bit of a shameless self-plugging here. I make a guest appearance on the Epic Marvel podcast this week. It is a Marvel 2-in-1 review of the Epic Collection. It's episode 1B, so fantastic. I was invited last year by the host Curtis to come on the show. He's got a whole slew of friends and co-hosts to review. So he asked each of the co-hosts to review one of the adversaries against the Thing, because basically it's Marvel 2-in-1. It's basically the Thing versus someone. So I talk about the Thing versus Gollum, out of all people, a small Z level character, a very interesting one, not Moonlight related at all. unless, of course, you kind of link the statue of Khonshu with Gollum. I mean, they're both kind of made out of stone. But but it was a fun thing to do. Thank you so much, Curtis, for having me on. And please go check it out, Loonies, Epic Marvel Podcast. Check out both of them, episode 1A, 1B of Marvel 2-in-1. Right, so for the next phase, kind of after whetting the appetite for all the Loonies for the year of 2019, what do we have next week?
Oh, yeah, we got a fun little one. I've been cooking this one up for a while. I've been really keen to check it out. We're doing our big trade arc review where we're covering the Ultimate Spider-Man trade. I'll need to look up what it is quickly, but it's the one with the appearance and incredibly heavy involvement of Ultimate Moon Knight. A very distinct take from someone already known for his distinct take on Moon Knight.
That is so cool. And this is, of course, from the Phase of the Moon. Next week will be a waxing gibbous, so that's why we're doing the trade and or arc review. I can't wait for this one, Connor. I haven't read this, so this will be new grounds.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, I'll take it you've read it.
Oh, I love the
awesome.
Ultimate Spider-Man series. I cannot believe you haven't read this.
Yeah, I
need to get you on that immediately. What is going on?
It's the ultimate universe. I never cracked into it. It's kind of like
much of it's not great anymore. But
oh, really? Yeah. I remember with Rick Ball on his Isla Ra, we did Ultimate X-Men, and I think that was drawn by David Finch. I can't remember who wrote it, but that was older. That was okay. But I've heard the only good thing kind of come out of that was Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimate Fantastic Four, maybe. Out of the universe.
Yeah, I kind of just like Ultimate Spider-Man from there. But
yeah. No, cool.
So it'll be Ultimate Spider-Man Volume 18, Ultimate Knights, I believe. Okay. It's also in Ultimate Spider-Man Ultimate Collection, Book 7, if that's where you want to read it. Right. Issues 100 and Ultimate Spider-Man 106 to 111. We'll have a newsletter on this, but if that's a place to read it on Marvel Unlimited as well. So
great, awesome stuff. So get cracking, Loonies. Plenty to read, plus all your current pull lists. Should be a fun week coming up. Finally, as always, I was thinking about this the other day, Connor. I think maybe we should do like a pre-recorded outro. Unless, of course, you like...
That's a good idea.
So because I've been listening to other podcasts and it's like, that's pretty handy. Like, we can just sign off and then we have a pre-recorded of ourselves just saying all this stuff. But anyway, before we do that, you can find us Loonies on email. You can drop us a line on email at itkmoonnight@gmail.com. We've got a website, blog site, with our newsletters and our podcast episodes on intothenightpodcast.wordpress.com. We've actually also got a Libsyn podcast page as well. I haven't put it in there. I believe it is intothennight.libsyn.com. Anyway, I'll put that in the summary. Facebook, we're on. We've got the page, facebook.com/ITKMoonnight. We're in a group, a fantastic group, facebook.com/group/ITKMoonnight. Twitter @ITKMoonnight, and we're on Instagram, Tumblr, YouTube. Just search for Into the Night, a Moon Knight podcast. We also have a little shout for iTunes ratings. So if you do love what you're hearing, or and you'd like to, to like type it in, just leave us an iTunes rating. They really help. Preferably, if you can give us 5 stars, that would be good. But yeah, obviously, please be honest. If we're crap, then we'd love to learn from our mistakes. And this will just give us a bigger net to cast out there, and hopefully capture other loonies to join our lovely loony community. And finally, we're on all good podcast catchers: Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, etc., etc. Oh, Khonshu, a bit of exciting news. I moved from Apple to Android. How cool is that, eh?
There you go.
Yeah. Are you an Android person? Yeah?
Are you an Android? Always have been. Love me some Android.
I'm loving it. I think it's great. It's. I feel so liberated.
I wonder if we'll lose any listeners because of this.
No, well, I've sampled both, so I do like Apple. I still have an iPad, which is fantastic. But I feel like almost like the shackles are off with the phone, and it's great. So I used to listen to podcasts on Overcast, which is a very good podcast catcher on Apple. But now I use Podcast Republic. So whatever your flavor loonies, all the podcast catchers, we're available. So check us out. Right.
Bloody lovely.
Lovely. Well, Khonshu, it has been bloody awesome yet again to do this. I cannot wait for our trade arc review. Since we're recording early in the weekend here, anything's planned for the weekend coming?
The new season of anime shows has started up. I watched that. It's like I said, it's been a pretty cool week for comics. I haven't dug into much. We've got New Criminal, Die, Captain Marvel, Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man.
Oh, Tom Taylor. Yeah.
Plenty of great stuff. So big pile this week. We'll be digging into that for sure.
Yeah, I'll be pretty much doing the same. And hopefully maybe read one or two Moon Knight stories here and there to keep him fresh in the mind. Having said that, sign off now, and I have nothing left to say, but may Khonshu watch over the denizens of the night. Catch you later.
Goodbye.
Moon Knight and affiliated characters, stories and events are properties of Marvel Characters Incorporated. Materials used and discussed within the podcast are intended for critique and review purposes only under the fair dealing concept of the current Copyright Act. The views, information or opinions expressed during the podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of the copyright owners.